Nayamatma balahinena labhya nacha pramadat tapaso vapya lingat. The self is not attained balahinena, one who lacks the mental and intellectual strength. You can't be mentally weak. When does one become mentally weak? When your mind is very impulsive, when your mind is restless, when the mind lacks the bhakti or the faith in the higher. The intellectual strength is when it lacks the conviction to pursue the higher path. Balahinena pramadat, when you are careless or one who violates tapas. So self is not attained by those who lack strength. We said the mental and intellectual strength. The mind must be convinced, have total faith in the higher, surrender to the higher. The intellect must be convinced in the pursuit of the higher. And when there is this confluence of surrender and conviction, when you trust the self, when you believe in the self, when you abide by the self, when you live by the self. You know, when Swami Ramatirtha in the early 1901, 1902, when he visited US, when he was on a ferry or the ship that took him there, he was empty-handed with no baggage, nothing, just had bare minimum clothing. And there were few Americans who were quite impressed with his simplicity. So they struck a chord with him and got into a conversation. And I said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I don't know where I'm going." "Who is receiving you?" "I don't know who is going to receive me." "Do you have anything on you?" "I have nothing on me. I have myself with me," and so on. So they didn't, and they realized this man didn't have any plan where he was going, anything. He was just getting to the US. And then they took over his itinerary and they planned everything for him. And during his lectures in the United States, he didn't write a book, and all his lectures were captured and you've been recommended. I believe some of you have got it. I hope some of you are reading it. If you have not, please start reading them. The books are in volumes of 7, titled In Woods of God Realization. Get a hold of them. That should be your New Year gift to yourself. In Woods of God Realization. Now, in that, I'm reminded, I'm saying all of this because I'm reminded what he used to say. He says, trust in yourself, not in the mighty dollar, he used to say that. Surrender to the self, not to the mighty dollar. So today our mind has surrendered to the world. Our mind has got a black market value for what the world has to offer. But if the mind itself surrenders to the self, then the mind itself becomes a great strength for the sadhana. Pramadat, careless, self-realization, or any spiritual journey cannot be pursued with any negligence or carelessness. Means your actions cannot be haphazard, or it can't be sporadic. It has to be measured. It has to be calculated. It has to be, if somebody were to see you, they can predict what you would do, because it's all predicted actions. It's not sporadic. It is not impulsive, it is not unmeasured actions. And then obviously we said, if you violate tapas, tapas dissipates your energy. So if you violate tapas, you cannot pursue or you cannot attain the self, or you can't win the spiritual journey. But this wise one, Vidwan, Vidwan means the wise one whose self strives, Atma strives. Atma here, the self here is refers to the small s, not the capital S. Show the translation again, Ma, of the fourth mantra, please. So, but this, the second half of the mantra, but this wise one who self strives. So if you note, the self is small s. The small s refers to the individual ego. Means the individual striving. Leave it for a moment, please. They may be wanting to take note of it. So those wise ones whose self strives through these means, which means through the mind and intellect, with care and tapas. Enters the abode of Brahman, the reality. So they practice tapas. Tapas is conservation of energy, directing it to a higher cause. So whenever we talk of tapas, yes, ma. So only one side we talk of conservation. Other side is it has to be directed to a higher ideal. And that higher, so the element of linga has to come. Linga means a higher ideal or a goal or a purpose. You must have that Agni, the two elements we're talking. Or rather, we say three elements here when we talk of tapas. One, when we say tapas, tapas is conservation of energy from its dissipative channels. We spoke about it last week. So you avoid dissipative energies. Don't get into an activity which is devolutionary. That's point one. The second point is it has to be directed to the higher. Now, when you talk of directing to the higher, there are two elements there. One is it must have Agnihi. Agnihi means the fire. Linga means the ideal. So they must be the fire for the ideal. The two words I'm using, Linga means the ideal, Agni means the fire. You must have the ideal and you must also have the burning desire to reach the ideal. If these two are not there, the progression doesn't happen dynamically. It doesn't happen. The efforts lack direction. The efforts lack consistency. So if you want your actions to have efforts, action to have direction, and if you want your action to be consistent, you need to have these two elements. Aparagaro, what are the two elements we're talking, sir? Just want to be sure everyone has got it.
For Can you just rephrase the question, Guruji? I'm sorry.
My question was, what are the two important factors we spoke about after avoiding dissipation, after conserving the energy? What is required are the two Sanskrit words we used just now. What are they?
One is tapaha and the other one is linga. Tapaha, we are talking about, you know, uh, mm, putting efforts the right cause in an ideal environment. Actually, I was trying to understand what exactly the linga you said ideal. I was trying to think about it. What exactly is ideal? Is it an ideal environment, or I was thinking because the way the way the sentence has been framed, I felt it is not what we generally speak. The That's what I thought. Actually,
fair enough, sir. No issue. I
was thinking about it because I thought ideal is basically you have to have an ideal environment to dissipate your energy to reach the goal. That was what I was thinking about.
No, sorry. In fact, you don't use those terms. You can't say I need an ideal environment to dissipate my energy. Dissipation never happens in an ideal environment. Dissipation happens in an unconducive environment. But however, I will clarify. So I think
the word dissipation is wrong then. Yeah.
The word dissipation is always used in a negative context where your energy gets wasted. All right. The fact that it needs clarity, I'm writing it down, sir. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Not at all. Not at all. Thank you. So, as I've said, the first aspect of tapas is conservation of energy, and conservation of energy because energy gets dissipated. The energy gets dissipated where your past worries, your future anxieties, and in the present, you get excited. These are the three avenues where the energy gets dissipated. And all of this is happening as an undercurrent. You may not be aware where your mind constantly gets preoccupied and how unknowingly, unconsciously, your mind keeps sapping your energy. So you need to be extremely cautious to consciously, extremely cautious and conscious to ensure these three avenues loopholes are plugged in. Otherwise, the mental energy keeps getting dissipated. So this is the first point. Now, under the directing to the higher, we said there are two things. What are the two things with reference to directing energy to the higher? What energy? The energy that you're saved by avoiding dissipation. The two words is so the word lingat means an ideal. An ideal means a goal, and Agni means the fire. So these two elements are very important when we're talking about directing energy to the higher. So uh, whether your actions are two important things when we talk of acting towards the higher. Your actions needs direction, and your actions needs consistency. And these two aspects are taken care by these two elements. So you need to be aware that these two aspects, the Lingat and the Agni, are constantly in check. Now, when I say this, an ideal is conceived by your intellect. We're not it's your mind doesn't conceive, your intellect conceives. Mind only surrenders to the goal. So the intellect conceives, the mind surrenders. But ideal is something conceived by your intellect. The ideal must be realistic. The ideal must inspire you, and the condition is an ideal must be it is very important that these elements are taken into account. Now, the verse uses the phrase, the wise one strives. Now, you and I are also striving. We're also putting effort to get to the goal. Now, does our action exhibit these qualities? Is our goal realistic? So let us all talk of the common goal that we are all pursuing. We are all talking of the wisdom. We are all talking of our self-transformation and the wisdom to attain. Does this goal of wisdom, I'm not even talking of self-realization. I'm talking about being in the path of wisdom, being in the path of self-transformation. Does this wisdom inspire us? How many of our actions are committed towards this ideal? Is there a Agni of the wisdom in you towards the wisdom? Is there the linga of wisdom in you? This determines, is your heart throbbing for the goal of wisdom? Is there the goal of wisdom in your heart, in your head? Because the wise one strives through these means, the means which I've explained, they enter the abode of Brahman. So this mantra is giving us a caution of how you should be careful of the impediments. Then one of the impediments, he says, you must practice tapas. And all this that I have shared talks about the various aspects of tapas. I repeat, tapas, conservation of energy. Conservation of energy is from the dissipative channels of worries, anxieties, and excitement. Then when you conserve that, you direct it to the higher. When you direct the energy to the higher, you need to have lingat and agni. You need to have a very clear ideal, a very clear goal, and a very strong fire to reach the goal. No point having the goal and no fire to reach it. There's no fervor. There's no desire. What's the point having the goal and no desire? Oh, yes, sir, I want to attain wisdom, but there is no fire in me to get up at Brahma Muhurtam. There is no fire in me to do what is needed to attain that wisdom. There's no fire to do the sadhana. No use. But when there is Agni and the Lingat, your actions gain a clear direction and your actions become consistent. Now, the ideal, we said, is conceived by your intellect. It has to be realistic. It must continuously inspire you. And what are the conditions? What are the things that you need to keep in mind to conceive an ideal? An ideal must be beyond your reach, within your capacity. Now, just quickly going back to the second aspect where in the second diagram I showed, now when actions are driven by, by the mind, it has a unique characteristics. When the actions are driven by the mind, actions lack direction and lack consistency. Why do they lack direction? Because mind operates on likes and dislikes. So you clearly see the effect of having intellect in your life or lack of intellect. You don't know what you do tomorrow. You don't know whether you'll stick to what you're doing tomorrow. But when you operate with an intellect, your actions are highly predictable. Everybody around you would know what you do because there's a clear, determined path and you keep pursuing that path to get to the goal. I hope you have captured this. It's highly scientific. It's very, very scientific. And I'm not trying to make you academic here, but I'm trying to tell you how these words speak all these that we have captured. They just say tapas. But when they say tapas, all this is ingrained in the one word tapas. And this is required for any goal. You want to build your business, you must have the consistent effort. You want to achieve anything worldly also, you need this. Now, you want to achieve something spiritual, you need to have a greater commitment. Now, Aparogar, you follow the concept, huh?
Yes, Guruji. It's very interesting.
Only interesting. Huh? You're not talking whether it's clear or not.
It is clear.
I'm very dejected.
Guruji,
Am
because
I
it is
telling a story to tell you, say interesting or not, sir? What is this, sir?
no, when I say it's very interesting, I understood and I really enjoyed it when you
Thank you, sir.
explained it.
I know, sir. You are also like Upanishadic master. In one word, they mean so much is packed in that one word, sir. No, appreciate. Thank you. Samprapyainam ऋषयो ज्ञानतृप्ता कृतात्मानो वीतरागा अप्रशान्ताः ते सर्वगं सर्वतः प्राप्य धीरा युक्तात्मानः सर्वमेवाविशन्ति सम्प्राप्यैनं ऋषयो ज्ञानतृप्ताः कृतात्मानो वीतरागा अप्रशान्ताः ते सर्वगं सर्वतः प्राप्य धीरा युक्तात्मानः सर्वमेवाविशन्ति. Just hold on. I think I will just take up the question by Pushpama and come back to this mantra. So what is Pushpama asking is, what do we mean by, in the context of the phrase we wrote, a goal must be within your capacity but beyond your reach. If it's within your reach, then there is no effort, no? What is the purpose of a goal? The purpose of a goal is to push you beyond your comfort zone, is to take you to higher realms, is to take you to go to greater heights. So when you keep that target, it must be beyond your reach, not within your reach. But it must be within your capacity. It should not be beyond your capacity. If it is beyond your capacity, then you become you lose your motivation. It's not within your capacity. So it must be within your capacity, but beyond your reach. Like, for example, I just talk in terms of, let's say, lifting weights. Let's say if I'm doing exercise in the gym, I don't, but I'm just saying example. If I'm able to comfortably lift, I'm exercising dumbbells and I can easily lift 3 kgs in each arm. And I can do 15 rounds, 15 times in 3 rounds each I can do. Comfortably I'm doing. Now what the coach will come and say, okay, increase the weight today. Very comfortable you have become. It's very easy. You want to grow the muscle strength, it has to be from 3 to, he'll increase to 3.5 or 3.75. That is, what is that? When he increases from 3 to 3.5 or 3.75, what is it? It is within your capacity. Imagine he puts it to 5 kgs or 6 kgs or 10 kgs, finished. It is beyond your capacity. So it must be within your capacity, but you have not reached the goal of 3.75 or 4. So the goal is, when you say within your reach, the goal is 4 kgs. But do I have the capacity to get there? That's where we say it must be realistic. I repeat what I said. When I say if my current capacity is 3 kgs, and the coach will put 3.75 or just say 4 kgs, that 4 kgs is within my capacity. It can't be 10 kgs because that is not your capacity. So that 4 kgs within your capacity is your goal, which must be realistic. That realistic goal, you must be very careful. If you go beyond your capacity, if you go beyond your capacity 10 kgs, you don't get inspiration. So if the goal, if it has to inspire you, it must be beyond your reach, within your capacity, beyond your reach. It should not be from 3 to 3.05 or 3. Increase 10 grams. At 10 grams, there's no difference. You don't find a difference. So that stretch has to be more. So that 0.5 pushes you. You feel that strain, not that strain to the extent where it tear the muscle. Imagine he puts 10 kgs on each arm, it will tear the muscle. That will do damage. So a guru will push you to serve, to grow, if you allow him to. Otherwise, he will not interfere. This fellow is tamasic fellow. He'll only talk. No action. Only class to the person. He just talks in classroom, but there is no sacrifice, there is no effort put into the goal. So he'll keep quiet. You got it, man? Soumya is asking, what do we mean by saying direction? Direction is where you're heading. What do you want in your effort is the goal. When the goal is very clear, that's when you know what you are seeking. If the goal is not clear, you don't know what you're seeking. Okay. All right, Pushpama, all right? You follow?
Yes.
Right. Ashama, you can't say that, Ashama. You can't say making parathas is within your reach.
Perfecting in that, yes.
आप तो blindfolded perfecting है, वो goal तो
Over
बहुत ज्यादा है.
a period of 60 years, Guruji.
अभी तो perfection है आप. You know, I was, and then she was saying that I was watching a documentary, and there was a Sufi saying, isn't it?
Sufi, yes.
It was a Sufi saying, and instantly I told, I recorded that Sufi saying and sent to Ashama and said, please tell me the meaning of it. It sounded very philosophical. So that she said she had to put an effort for that. Fair enough.